Hey everyone. Today on TMIT Teammates, we're joined by our friend Noah Zaltz. We met Noah through work. He's a fellow investor, deep thinker, and one of those people who doesn't just nod along when you talk about building something meaningful. He listens, he asks better questions, and over time, we realized we weren't just aligned on venture capital, we were aligned on family too. Noah's thoughtful, steady presence has made a big impact on us, and we're excited to share him with you. Hey Noah, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming. This is great. It's a funny kind of weird, I don't even know what the word is, to see you on Zoom in this context, right? We're usually gabbing about something related to an investment, but this is, I guess, a different kind of investment, and the investment in the family and in family culture. So thanks for making some time to talk about this. We'd love to start off, I think, by just talking about the big FC, family culture. What does family culture mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we hadn't thought about in those terms, but we always thought about as it relates to, what are we trying to create here? Like, what did it all roll up to? And I think that for us, it's about defining normal for our family and for our kids. Knowing that a range of experiences and a range of ways of doing things end up looking normal to different people. We realize that our kids, and I say this not totally seriously, but they'll believe anything. Mm-hmm. As their parents. What we do on a day-to-day basis and how we do it, and then how we react to those things, ends up forming their sense of normal. And for us, when we think about family culture now in these terms, we think about what sense of normal we are instilling in our kids. And yet it's a feeling, right? So it's a little mushy and it's a little hard to totally define, but it's the way that we kind of think about it is, if I was asking you guys how your 4th of July was, and Danielle, you said, well, we kind of did it the Neufeld way. It felt normal to you guys. Yep. It's a feeling, right? And so it's the same thing for us. And the fact that it is a feeling, I think, is an important thing, because I think for us anyway, being so rules-based and so sort of cut and dried about what must or must not be done kind of misses the point. For us, at the end of the day, it's about how we individually feel as part of the group, and then how the group feels at baseline.
That's a great answer. Feels like you have thought about this a lot, and it's weird that we only started talking about it when we launched a podcast.
I will say, I had not thought about these things so explicitly until you guys asked the question in advance of this conversation. And I have to say, even the exercise of answering the question in my mind has been hugely valuable and really interesting for Tara and I to engage on. How would we answer that question? Because it becomes such a feeling between you and your partner as you're guiding your family that sometimes you don't say these things out loud.
Yeah, totally. Make the implicit explicit, my Claire Hughes Johnson-ism that I think really can be applied to so many areas of life, but definitely when it comes to culture conversations and conversations between husband and wife, mom and dad.
Totally.
Yeah. How much of your kind of making things normal and what is normal from your family is a replica from your family of origins, and how much is kind of charting new courses? And also I'd ask, how often do you immediately see eye to eye, you and Tara, versus have kind of more of a rumble type dialogue and finding something new?
So I love those questions together for us in particular.
Yeah.
Because there's so much of what we are doing that does replicate some of my upbringing and some of my family of origin. And a lot of what we are doing is a little different from her family of origin. And interestingly, we end up agreeing pretty quickly about what we want, and the decisions we want to make, partly because we don't start from the model. I think we recognize that we've both been influenced in different ways. And by the way, family of origin influences for both of us are what to do and also what not to do. Mm-hmm. And taking those things as given, but then putting them to the side and starting the conversation almost from the first question you asked me, which is, what is this all about? whatever the particular decision is, when we're thinking about how the kids are going to eat, or what schedule we're going to keep, or bedtime, or what's important to us in terms of relationships with our friends and our family, with our kids. A lot of those kinds of decisions don't start with the model. They do start with the objective for us.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us a recent example of something that has started with the objective?
So eating is a really interesting thing. How you feed your kids is a really interesting topic for us because I think you guys position part of the most important thing, scope, as for busy, ambitious families. Mm-hmm. And so nutrition can be especially tricky for busy, ambitious families because whole food, nutritious food, and food that you think will be supportive of the right energy levels and at the right times of day is not necessarily fast.
Yes, absolutely.
And so when we think about, okay, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we have 2 snacks. How are we going to ensure both that the kids are getting what they need, but also that it's not totally wiping, our time to do anything else, that we're spending all our time, food prepping and mm-hmm. making sure everything is perfectly organic and all that stuff. So it's a balance. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think that the objective there being the right nutrition is important for the right energy and puts you in the right state of mind or not to learn to engage with your environment. Too much sugar and you pop and then you drop.
Sure. I mean, you're preaching to the choir on that one. We are a low sugar household by nature. Yeah. We're a big meat household. But so I'm curious, so what have you come up with? What are some of the experiments that you're running or ways that you figured out to kind of solve the problem, if you will?
So I think that we are very explicit about what is a treat and what is not a treat. Mm. And that even if there are certain weeks that there happens to be more treats, mm-hmm. the designation and the label becomes really important for establishing the normal.
Yeah. So the implication is treats are once in a while or kind of when we say so and not a daily thing.
Absolutely. The implication is also that treats are not normal, even if they happen to be more common this week. Mm. And so it's more the distinguishing of what's normal for our family. And in the case of treat, what's extra special. But on other topics, it could be what might be more difficult. There's the exception to the norm. And we find that labeling the exception, even if the frequency of that exception is increased for whatever reason, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. helps maintain that sense of what is normal.
I like that. Are there any other examples that come to mind about labeling what's abnormal or the kind of idiosyncratic versus the Zaltz way?
The Zaltz way, I like that. It's almost across the board. I mean, not to be too simplistic, but at the end of the day for us, 3 big pieces of the baseline of the Zaltz norm, if you will, are nutrition, sleep, and getting outside, doing something outside. And so those are, our kids have come to expect that there is sleep hygiene that we're relatively uncompromising on. Same with nutrition, same with getting outside, except when we can't be.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we find that being uncompromising against the grain or against such a strong headwind actually creates more tension and stress and less comfort than labeling something as different and saying, although it's not normal, this is what it is. Mm-hmm. In the sense of nutrition, it's a treat. So to your question, around holidays or around long weekends, bedtime sometimes gets stretched. Maybe we're actually suggesting you skip nap time.
Sure.
Yeah.
That can be difficult. But if we label it as such and say, we know this isn't normal, and then we can talk about what it might look like. And then the following day, we can say, we're going back to normal and shoulders drop.
Sure. I really like that. It sounds to me like stating norms are important, but stating norms are especially important to differentiate from when you are outside of the norms. So it's like a pressure release valve, really. I'm saying like, yeah, we think naps are important, but there are some days where it's an adventure day and that's just not possible today. But guess what? You will take a nap tomorrow.
That's exactly right.
I like it takes I call it a pressure release style because it feels to me like even when you're talking about it, it feels like you're taking the pressure off yourselves, as you said, when there are these really strong headwinds, rather than pushing harder against the grain. You just kind of let it flow and name that it's an exception.
That's right. And I love the word that you use, adventure, because when we are doing things that are sometimes not the norm, we often frame it in that way. And for us, what that does is over time, particularly if it's just not the norm for now, but there's no reason that it couldn't be over time as kids get older or as they become slightly more flexible in their way of thinking about the world. Doing those things, and even if you call them not the norm for now, allow them to sort of stretch their ability to kind of regulate themselves outside of their median day or outside their median experience. So over time, you have enough exceptions to the norm managed as such. You can look back, and they look back and realize, actually, the diversity of experience that I've had, if I was going to take an average, might not actually be what I think of as my norm, but it has allowed me to stretch my norm a bit and sort of expand a bit.
Yeah, kind of like your area of competence, if you will. Like the area of competence widens because of these norms, but then these days that are outliers to the norm. And then suddenly you have more surface area where you feel competent.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Cool. I personally really struggle with being out of routine, but I find labeling really helps. We haven't labeled it as a treat, like kind of as explicitly as you have. So I think I will steal that. Adventure Day is something that we do, which is on Saturdays, Maverick skips nap. And he's the only one that's still napping. And so we do label it as the adventure day, and he knows that he's not going to have a nap. But typically it's because we're doing something fun, like going to the Kennedy Space Center, right?
Very cool.
And we really try to keep that to just one day a week for everyone's sanity. And it's harder in the afternoon. 4:00 in the afternoon on the day that he skips nap isn't really a fun time for anyone. But hopefully we've had enough fun. And oh, by the way, I've learned, speaking about sugar, they get at nap time at noon, when everybody usually goes down for nap, they get a large piece of chocolate on nap day, because I find that sugar, it's dark chocolate. It's relatively blood sugar stabilized sugar, but still like helps them, the sugar and the caffeine, like help them get through that nap period. So it's kind of that combination, if you will, of like skip nap plus chocolate that makes everybody like super motivated for the adventure.
I'm going to steal that one back.
I like it. Yeah. See, this is what I mean, though. This is the magic of TMIT, right? Which is like, we need to talk about these things because everybody has these great hacks, that we're all kind of keeping to ourselves, not unintentionally, but just because it's not that talked about.
Yeah. And I feel badly. We probably should have introduced your family composition to frame it for everybody. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. We have a 2.5-year-old daughter and an 11-month-old son and a 14-year-old dog.
All right.
I mentioned the dog because actually, as it relates to establishing norms and as it relates to sort of understanding the needs of other members of the household, I give a huge amount of credit to our dog, as I think our dog has taken a lot of the brunt of explicit teaching off of us. You're gonna want me to go into that?
Say more, please. Say more.
So the dog needs to be fed. The dog eats before we eat. That's just always been the case for me. I always feed the dog before I eat dinner. And that's what we do here. The dog needs to go out for a walk. Well, that's the dog is going to the bathroom. Let's use that as an opportunity to talk about bathroom needs. And our daughter's not potty trained yet, but we are in the middle of that conversation. And it's just a great, the dog, I keep on saying the dog, his name is Jetson. Jetson has been a fantastic, I would say, third parent in that way, because you can't really compromise on caring for your dog. And the kids recognize that. And the kids also recognize that there is somebody or another being outside of themselves and even outside of their parents that needs care and attention, and that becomes normal to give your attention and to provide care to others.
Yeah, I say you can only get a dog at 2 points in a family's life before kids or when your kids are like at least 8 or 9, because you can't do it anywhere in between. So
Totally.
that feels right. Does that mean that you and Tara have been together for Jetson's whole life, or?
Jetson and I have been together.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jetson predates everyone in the household. And generally,
you were a single dad.
I was a single dad. Generally, he keeps that to himself, but every once in a while, he likes to make it known to Tara, listen, I'm going to vie for number 2.
That's great.
That's great. Winston is our firstborn. We got him 6 weeks before I got pregnant with Hunter, Greg.
Yep.
Something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was our baby training, if you will.
And he's the only one, just to hit on a point you quickly made, he's the only one that's been potty trained, like intentionally no, I'm serious, out of this whole family. So when you bring up the term potty train, my dad of 3 kids that are now all potty trained, quote unquote, comes to mind, because none of them, we didn't do any formal potty training for them.
Really?
No, nothing. Or teach them to swim.
Well,
And they're
right
all
now
excellent swimmers.
That's incredible, because we are right now in the middle of thinking about potty training, and we just finished swim lessons. So, I mean, I'd love to understand from you guys, those are 2 pretty big things for a lot of families.
For sure.
I want to make sure my kids are safe in the water.
Absolutely. Maverick is not, let's be clear. We've 2 kids have not, Maverick has not learned how to swim yet. He's comfortable in the water, but he has not learned how to swim yet. But all 3 of them are potty trained. Maverick recently potty trained himself, like over the past couple of months.
Incredible.
And we say that because we never did, like, we have friends that did the kind of like underwear off weekend kind of thing. I don't know. That's like a pretty common one. I don't even know. It goes back to our overall kind of how people learn philosophy and kind of sense of responsibility, respect for the individual, if you will. And just this idea that I don't want to say that like to potty train is not to be respectful, because I think you can certainly do it in a respectful way, but we're not ones to use like rewards for anything really. So it felt a little bit not aligned with our values to do anything other than just wait until they were ready. And I would say the biggest reward was, are you ready for underwear? Tell me when you're ready for underwear and I'll buy you whatever kind of underwear you want. That's been the extent of our potty training. And then there came a time with each child where they said, I'm ready.
They came to you.
Yes, they came to us. And so Hunter did it by the time she was 3. Jade was closer to 3.5. Maverick was 3.5. And so that worked for us because the schools that we have, you can go, you don't ever have to be potty trained for the school. You can be 6 years old and not potty trained. It's fine. So there was no pressure. There was no external pressure.
Right.
Really. And then now Maverick has been potty trained for a couple months now. And it's just like making sure every couple hours that I do ask him, like, you have to go to the bathroom before we leave the house for school, or you have to go to the bathroom before and after nap. Like those are non-negotiables, or before bed. But otherwise he just goes whenever.
We've been under the impression until very recently that we are going to do the diaper off weekend.
Yeah.
But it would be if we did that, it would be the first time we're doing anything like it in that way that you described.
Yeah.
And hearing you say this makes me want to totally reconsider. It's one of those things that we're not close enough yet to her readiness that it was something we were planning.
Sure.
But it is something that's been floating out there. Everything else that we do with her, and I say her because he's only 11 months old, has been, she has told us when she's ready.
Yeah.
She has, or at least said, I would like to do that, if she didn't have the language for I'm ready for.
Right. And I mean, you can certainly ask her, right? Like, I think that with Hunter, we got like a little potty and we put it next to mine and she would come to the bathroom with me, right? And just like play with it a little bit and explore the idea of it, but no pressure. No pressure.
Yeah. Right.
I think Maverick started pooping in the potty first for a long time. And then, because he didn't like, poop. And then now he's peeing, and he just decided that he wanted to start peeing in the potty. I'm a big believer in that one. Because like you said, like there's no other time in our life that we just kind of say, okay, today's the weekend that I have time, so I'm going to take your underwear off. Like that feels violating to me. No judgment to anybody, but for me personally, it felt violating.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. Because I feel like it's one of those kind of analogies that opens up a deeper philosophical conversation.
So I want to bring this back to the concept of normal, because this is a good illustration of what I mean and what I don't mean when I say we really think of ourselves as the sort of as the setters of what is normal. Mm-hmm. normal in our house is, like I said, it's a feeling. And so the feeling that you're describing, preserving by allowing them to indicate when they're ready, is much more important to us, for example, than it is to say, oh, it's normal that when you're 2.5, you're not wearing a diaper. For us, well, that's not a feeling. That kind of external sort of look at what's going on over there motivation, for us, I think, first of all, it doesn't feel good in the moment, which is important, but not always the most important. But I think what's more important is to give our kids a sense that we care more about their agency than we do about some external view of what they should, that capital S should be doing.
Yep.
Understood.
Yeah.
Noah, you keep talking about norms and normalization, which I think is an incredible topic. Where do you think that this need for norms comes from?
That's a great question. For me and for us, because it's something that we've actually talked about a lot, even in advance of having kids, we talked about, you talk about life. What life do you want to build together as a couple, as a partnership? And we firmly believe that our family culture and our family norms emanate from our relationship and the way we treat each other and the way we prioritize our relationship. So I think in one sense, the fact that focusing there brought us very close together as a unit, it felt like a natural, continuation from that conversation. But, taking a deeper cut at the question, I would say, I grew up in a single parent household where I give my mom so much credit. She held the line for me in a way that I didn't recognize until much later. I felt like I had a very normal childhood. And whenever I heard in school or otherwise, all of the language around, well, if your parents get divorced, it's not your fault, and all this stuff, I felt like for whatever reason it didn't apply to me, because I kind of felt like I'm not at a disadvantage here. There's nothing abnormal about my life. And I think over time recognizing that, I didn't get special treatment one way or the other in our household. I would say me and my brother didn't get special treatment one way or the other. I came to appreciate so much that sense of normal, that I could have real expectations of what days could look like, what I could expect from my mom, what I could expect from my responsibilities around the house. I think it allowed me to participate in the world in a different way than had I not had that sense of norm. One of the ways that we talk about it in our house today is there's out there and there's in here. And so the norms allow you to have an in here, right? Whatever happens out there, it could be great, it could be terrible, it could feel good, it could feel bad, but then you come in the door and you're in here now, right? And that distinction is, I think, preserved by the concept of norm.
That's beautifully said. Thank you.
Well said.
We talk about our family as a base camp, and that life is about climbing our own mountains, but that we want to maintain a base camp where everyone feels safe, sufficiently nurtured and nourished, and prepared, right? Like given their tools and their supplies and their frameworks to climb their own mountains.
I love that. I'm going to introduce that language.
Cool.
Here.
Cool. Yeah, and TMIT is a base camp too, right? This is where we can all share and collectively. When we were first starting out, like the thing that I wrote on the vision board is like a recipe collection, if you will, where how you used to, like, I don't know if you're in your elementary school, you would have, like, I would send in my grandma's meatball recipes and Tina would send in her mom's Donna's carrot cake recipe, and then you'd get a book printed, right?
We did it. We called it Heritage Day.
There you go. I want to create Heritage Day for family culture.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's I think it's really important to do. I think you guys talk about this in one of your first episodes, but it just resonated with me so much that your priorities are what you do, not what you say.
Yes.
And so when it feels like the ways to connect with other people are not always about what is your priority, there's a disconnect that it seems like you're going after with this community.
Yeah, what shows up for me in this conversation about base camp, about out there versus in here, is in here to parents can feel lonely, especially pre-Team It. I mean, that's a lot of what we're doing here. We're not just creating Heritage Day, we're looking for the participants, right? But are there other folks, family members, anybody out there that you've been able to lean on, or that you've been able to have conversations like this one outside of Tara and your kids?
I think if I had one superpower, I think it's my ability to take learnings from places that don't feel very fertile for learning. And so I have lots of conversations with people that may or may not be about parenting, but that I may be in a family culture or a parenting mindset when I'm having those conversations. And so I'm selectively culling what I'm absorbing about what's being said to me, to just take in the learnings, can be positive, can be negative, about family culture. I think this is probably true for the two of you as well, but professionally, I have been lucky to be the young guy in the room for quite a while now. And the one thing that has stuck with me in all of those experiences across different jobs and different bosses and managers, and just being the young person in the room, is a lot of people are very open about what they wish they had done. And at the same time, a lot of people inadvertently will guide you in the same direction they went.
It's a great notice.
And so when I use the word call before, what I mean is you kind of have to take the wisdom and leave the direction.
Yeah. Okay. So
I love that, Noah. Thank you. That's great.
I think you two have a lot in common, from
Us? Me?
Yeah. From your arc is in your early 20s, Danielle, and your arc in your early 20s.
Being the youngest in the room.
Being
It's
the
awesome.
youngest in the
It's
room.
great.
Had a high growth organization but that's really a great observation. Now, to take us back to why this is showing up in the zeitgeist, I think you're a trend spotter, and you're very good with your words. So what do you think is important about this moment with let's call it, with the millennial generation and Gen Z, as we're having families, where it's not just having these conversations in private, it's about bringing them into the forefront and making them, I would say, part of the human experience, the shared human experience, versus just like something that, I mean, we've all been having families for forever, and there's not a podcast in sight, there's not a TV show in sight about how to do things proactively. Everything is about reaction. It's about what happens when your kid's throwing a fit, in Walmart. Like, how do you stop them, and how do you correct that behavior, as opposed to like, how do you make sure that before you walk through those doors, they know what showing up into a store means as a family, and what being out there in the world together means. Like, why is that only showing up now?
It's such a great question. And I think my answer will maybe reflect my little slice of the world here. But I think that a lot of millennial parents are faced with a bit of a dichotomy where, you may not have had the best upbringing, but it was a great time to grow up. It was kind of like, ketchup was purple, and, like everything was kind of wacky and focused on kids and Nickelodeon. And it was very, you can be what you want to be, almost like a playground. The whole world felt like a playground as a kid. And I think there are a lot of externalities that resulted of that world that we are now left holding the bag, right? What's going on with the environment? What's going on with inequality in our country and around the world? What's going on with, injustice? What's going on with a lot of different things? And we're sort of faced with this. I'm grateful for, and I had a lot of opportunities growing up. We're faced with wanting to replicate so much of the good that we had and talk about the world as a place of opportunity and abundance and all of those words. But on the other side, recognizing that if we did the same things that our parents did, or if the world continues to do the same things, some of the responsibility of these externalities now falls on us. And so some of it is about, I think, how we feel and the kinds of, to a certain degree, some selfish motivations around what kind of family you want to surround yourself with. But some of it, certainly the way we think about it, is we want to take the good from the culture of opportunity and abundance, but we can't continue to do it unabated. And we have to create individuals and foster in individuals the ability to see more and do more, but not just for themselves.
Wow.
Does that align?
No, it
Totally.
totally aligns.
Totally. It kind of reminds me of the mission of our children's elementary school is to create liberated learners who will create a more just and healthier planet. And a lot of what really had us gravitate there is because we know that they will learn the domain knowledge that they need and the subject matter expertise, but this idea of being stewards first in your community, but then globally, and that they can take action on big problems as little people and as they grow is really what motivates us to continue to lean into that community.
Right.
So we're with you.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I think that's a wrap, guys.
Yeah. This is great.
Noah, thank you so very much for joining us.
Have to have you back. I think
love to come back, and I will do my best to convince Tara to come back too.
We would love to have her. Absolutely.
That sounds great.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us on another episode of TMIT Teammates.
Until next time.
Mm-hmm.